She never expected his rule would be, "Don't fall in love with me." Too late. 3 months into their fake relationship, Olivia Parker was already breaking the only condition that billionaire Ethan Blake had set. Now, standing on his penthouse balcony as the city lights twinkled below, she had to decide, walk away with her heart intact or risk everything for a chance at real love. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected love and complicated emotions, please hit that like button and subscribe for more captivating romance stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Olivia Parker was drowning in debt. Between her mother's medical bills and her own student loans, she was barely keeping her head above water. Working 2 jobs, barista by day, waitress by night, left her exhausted, with dark circles under her once bright hazel eyes. Her tiny apartment felt more like a prison than a home, the walls closing in with each new bill that arrived. When she spilled coffee on Ethan Blake's custom Italian suit, she expected to be fired on the spot. What she didn't expect was for the notoriously cold CEO of Blake Enterprises to study her face with those piercing blue eyes and offer her a proposition that would change her life forever. "I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for 3 months, he said, his voice low and controlled as they sat in his sleek black Bentley outside the cafe. "My grandmother is dying. Her last wish is to see me settled with someone. I'll pay off all your debts." Olivia's heart raced. It seemed too good to be true. "Why me? You could have anyone." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "You didn't recognize me when I walked in. You treated me like a normal person. And you didn't apologize for the coffee, you offered solutions. That's rare in my world." She should have said no. Every instinct told her this arrangement would lead to trouble. But when he mentioned the figure, enough to clear all her debts and provide a cushion for her mother's ongoing care, she found herself nodding. "One rule," he said, his expression suddenly serious. "Don't fall in love with me. This is business, nothing more." The contract was signed that afternoon. Olivia would attend events, family gatherings, and business functions as Ethan's devoted girlfriend. In return, her financial burdens would disappear. 3 months. Simple. Except nothing about Ethan Blake was simple. The first month was awkward. Ethan was stiff in public, his arm around her waist feeling more like a business transaction than affection. His grandmother, Eleanor, a sharp-witted woman with knowing eyes, watched them carefully from her wheelchair in the Blake family mansion. "You don't love her," Eleanor observed during their first dinner together, her voice weak but her mind still razor-sharp. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Love takes time, grandmother." Eleanor's eyes shifted to Olivia. "He's always been a terrible liar. Even as a boy." That night, in the privacy of Ethan's car, Olivia confronted him. "This isn't working." "She knows." "Then we'll have to be more convincing," he replied, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. The second month brought unexpected changes. Ethan began asking about her life, her dreams beyond paying off debt. They created a backstory for their relationship, spending evenings rehearsing details. Somewhere between the practiced touches and fabricated memories, something shifted. She noticed how his eyes crinkled when he genuinely smiled, a rare occurrence. How he always remembered her coffee order. How he listened, truly listened, when she spoke about her mother's illness or her abandoned dreams of becoming an artist. One rainy evening, after visiting Eleanor, they found themselves trapped in a sudden downpour. Laughing, they ran for shelter under a shop awning, both soaked to the skin. "You have a beautiful laugh," he said suddenly, reaching out to brush a wet strand of hair from her face. His touch lingered, and for a moment, Olivia forgot to breathe. That night, she stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror of her apartment, which Ethan had insisted on upgrading for authenticity, and whispered a warning to herself, "Don't fall in love with him. It's not real." But her heart wasn't listening. The third month brought complications. Eleanor's health deteriorated rapidly, and Ethan spent more time at the hospital. Olivia found herself genuinely comforting him, holding his hand not for show but because she couldn't bear to see him hurting. One night, after a particularly difficult day at the hospital, Ethan invited her to his penthouse, something he'd never done before. They stood on his balcony overlooking the city, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "She's the only one who ever truly cared about me," he confessed, his voice raw with emotion. "My parents were always too busy building the empire. Nannies raised me. Business partners surrounded me. But Eleanor, she saw me." Olivia reached for his hand. "I see you too, Ethan." His eyes met hers, vulnerable in a way she'd never witnessed. For a breathless moment, she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he pulled away. "Remember the rule, Olivia," he said quietly. "This isn't real." But it felt real when he called her in the middle of the night, voice breaking as he told her Eleanor had taken a turn for the worse. It felt real when she rushed to the hospital and held him as he finally allowed himself to cry. It felt real when Eleanor, between labored breaths, made Olivia promise to take care of my stubborn grandson. When Eleanor passed away peacefully the next morning, Olivia's tears were genuine. So was the comfort she offered Ethan. So was the kiss they shared in the quiet corridor of the hospital, a kiss that neither of them acknowledged afterward. The funeral was a somber affair. Olivia stood beside Ethan, her hand firmly in his as he received condolences from people who seemed more interested in business connections than genuine sympathy. She watched him don the mask of the untouchable CEO, and her heart ached for the vulnerable man she knew existed beneath. That evening, as they sat in silence in his car outside her apartment building, Ethan finally spoke. "The contract ends tomorrow." Olivia's heart sank. "I know. Your debts have been cleared. As promised. Thank you." The words felt hollow, inadequate. He stared straight ahead. "You kept your end of the bargain. You were convincing." "So were you," she whispered, fighting back tears. The next day, Olivia received the final payment and a note, "Thank you for your services. E.B. Services." As if she'd been nothing more than an employee. She crumpled the note, finally allowing herself to cry for what could never be. 2 weeks passed. Olivia returned to her barista job, though she no longer needed the income. She needed the normalcy, the distraction from thoughts of Ethan. Her coworkers noticed the change in her, the sadness behind her smile, the way she glanced up hopefully whenever the door opened. On a rainy Tuesday, similar to the day they'd sheltered under the awning, the cafe door opened, and Ethan Blake walked in. He looked different, tired, his usually immaculate appearance slightly rumpled, as if he hadn't been sleeping well. The cafe fell silent. Everyone recognized the billionaire CEO whose face regularly graced business magazines. Everyone except Olivia, who was too busy trying to breathe. He approached the counter, his eyes never leaving hers. "Coffee, black. No sugar." She prepared it mechanically, her hands trembling slightly. When she handed him the cup, their fingers brushed, and she pulled away quickly. "Is that all?" she asked, her voice professional, detached. "No," he said quietly. "I broke my own rule, Olivia." Her heart stuttered. "What?" "I fell in love with you." The words hung between them, honest and raw. "I've spent 2 weeks trying to convince myself it was part of the act. That what I felt wasn't real. But I can't lie to myself anymore." Olivia stood frozen, unable to process his words. "I miss you," he continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I miss your laugh. I miss how you challenge me. I miss how you see me, not the CEO, not the billionaire, just me." "It was just an arrangement," she said, repeating his own words back to him, protecting her heart. "Was it?" He reached across the counter, taking her hand. "Tell me you felt nothing, and I'll walk away. Tell me it was all an act for you, and you'll never see me again." The cafe was silent, every customer watching the drama unfold. Olivia was acutely aware of the audience, of her coworkers' wide eyes. "You hurt me," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "I know. I was scared. Loving someone means being vulnerable, and I've spent my entire life avoiding vulnerability." His grip on her hand tightened. "But I'm more afraid of living without you than I am of loving you." Tears filled her eyes. "What are you saying, Ethan?" "I'm saying no more pretending. No more rules. Just us, figuring it out together. If you'll give me a chance." The cafe held its collective breath as Olivia rounded the counter to stand before him. For a moment, she said nothing, simply studying the face she'd missed so desperately. Then she smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "I broke the rule too. I fell in love with the real you, not the billionaire everyone else sees." When he kissed her, the cafe erupted in applause. Against his lips, she whispered, "No more rules?" "Just one," he murmured back. "Be real with me, always." 1 year later, Olivia stood on the same balcony where she'd once comforted Ethan after Eleanor's decline. Now, the city lights twinkled below as she held out her hand, admiring the engagement ring that caught the moonlight. Behind her, Ethan wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Happy?" She turned in his arms, remembering the journey that had brought them here, from a spilled coffee to a fake relationship to something profoundly real. "Happier than I ever thought possible." "Eleanor would have loved this ending," he said softly. Olivia smiled, thinking of the knowing look in the old woman's eyes. "I think she saw it coming all along." Sometimes the most genuine love stories begin with pretense. Sometimes the rules we set to protect ourselves are the very ones we need to break to find happiness. And sometimes, just sometimes, what starts as make-believe becomes the most real thing we'll ever know. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us all that love often finds us when we least expect it, and sometimes, in the most unconventional ways.